Hello everyone, my name is Brendan from Digital Mint. This is the first episode of Tutorial Tuesday, where we go over pretty much anything visual effects here. So right now, we're actually going back, we're going to do a whole series on some of these earlier element bending effects that we did way back in October or something. Alright, so we're just going to break this down into a bunch of different components. Right now we're just going to start off real simple, easy, air. It's pretty straightforward. Obviously there are a few different ways you can do this. There are a few methodologies to how you actually want this to look. Obviously that's up to you as the artist, but I'm going to show you just how we did it, which is actually pretty basic. Just some bit of displacement and then just some dust and, debris in there. But of course, you can change it up. Here is our original clip. So anyway, we're actually just going to be covering air today, and we'll go on to some of the other ones in the next coming weeks. So I figured we're just going to start with air because it is a pretty basic one. If you've never used After Effects, it's still pretty simple. It's only in After Effects. We don't have to worry about any of that 3D stuff. None of that right now. That's for later on. If you've never used After Effects before and you're trying this out, maybe you're just interested in learning more about the process. You want to see what's going on, and maybe even just specifically how to do this type of air effect. And you don't have any experience with After Effects, I highly recommend you go check out videocopilot.net and check out their basic training series, and that'll get you up to speed with the basics. Anyway, we're going to jump right into this. We're going to grab our comp here, our clip, and actually make a new comp out of it. And then I think we're also going to come in here and we're just going to change our bit depth to 16 bits per channel for this one. And working space sRGB, we're going to linearize that. That'll help especially a lot with the fire effects that we're going to do later on. So set that up now, and here we are. We have a nice comp. Everything's timed just right. Now we're actually going to find the spot where our air actually takes place. So that's going to be pretty much right here. We're going to hit B on the keyboard. That's going to set our workspace beginning. We'll go to the end and press N. So now we're pretty much only working with this area right here. I'm actually going to turn the audio off on this, so whenever we play it back, it's not getting loud. So here we are. This is our basic effect, and what we can do for right now is we can come in. We actually have, so this is some elements, stock footage. This one right here, Dustwave 07 from Action Essentials from Video Copilot. We also have one of Rampant Design's free 4K elements. This is a smoke element. It actually goes straight out like that. This will work quite nicely as we composite that. So again, Rampant 4K is free. If you're looking into Video Copilot Action Essentials, I highly recommend you pick it up if you're interested in doing a lot of the action effects and stuff. Great, super useful tool. Highly recommend it, but of course this one you do have to pay for. Alright, so to start off our composite, we're going to drag and drop our 4K smoke right here. Bring that bad boy in, and we're actually going to shift this over to where we're working. And now we're going to go Effect, Channel, Shift Channels. And what this is going to do is allow us to pull out some of our smoke off this black background. So we can actually just go up here, take alpha from the luminance, and that'll actually drop out our background. Now it does cut away a lot. It's still there if you look at it on black, but it's still pretty light. We're actually going to go do color correction, go curves, and we can actually bump this up. I just bring the alpha up here for now. And we'll return to this curves effect when we go into color correct this later on. We're also going to turn this background off real quick and just press Y on the keyboard, bring up our pan behind tool, and move the anchor point towards the source of that smoke. And I believe we're going to time this up now. So we want our smoke to start pretty much, say, right here. So like get our first bit. Maybe even, yeah, right here. Have a first frame. So press Shift 1 on the keyboard so that way we always know this is where we're starting. And then we're going to find that first frame of smoke right here. In fact, we can even have it just pop out right there so we can cut a bit more off. Alt, begin bracket, will cut right to that point. And there we are. Now we're going to move this over here, line everything up. And I can see, yeah, we're really going to have to bump up our alpha on here. This is After Effects CS6, by the way. Let's try to really lighten up our RGB. Get that to pop a little bit. Of course, once we start laying this with some of our other elements, it's not going to be a huge deal if we can't see it just yet. And I think we're also going to have to really time remap this. It's moving pretty slow. Let's try time stretch, and we'll bring this down to probably 40, I guess. Let's see what that gives us. Yeah, so that gives us a pretty intense whoosh right there. So think maybe some matting issues on this as well. Let's see what happens if we put on a channel remove color matting. Oh yeah, it really bumps it out. Probably should have done that first. And we can bring our alpha down a bit just to... Yeah. Looks good. So we'll get our rotate tool, because we moved that anchor point. We're rotating around back where the hand is. We'll move it up just a little bit so it follows the motion of our hand just a bit better. And we can even come in here, hit P on the keyboard, bring up position, snag that stopwatch, and we can even go forward a few frames and really animate this to stick with the hand. And then it ends. We sort of fade out. I'm going to hit T on the keyboard now, opacity, drop a keyframe, and we'll go forward till the end here. Just past our work area and fade that out just to get rid of any extra, and then we can even hit Alt and bracket to cut that layer off right there so we don't have any extra trimming over. So that's good. That's like our basic where we're working with. So we can sort of build this up now. We'll go back to our project. We'll grab this dust wave here, and we'll drop this on top again. Shift it over. Let's move this guy around. So let's flip it. Because in this case, the dust is sort of... Because we want to try to follow the direction of that dust as it moves. So it's sort of going from originally left to right because we flipped it now right to left. And let's get rid of some of these edges here. So let's take just a rectangle mask, and we'll take this guy, move it up maybe to right about there. F on the keyboard. We can also subtract this and then feather that. So we can get rid of that harsh edge, because harsh edges are not good. Don't like this. And now we also probably want to sort this edge out here. Actually, that may be off the frame. So if we say take, again, our pan behind tool by pressing Y, move our anchor point down, maybe right about here. So roughly where the smoke is, really coming out of, or the dust in this case. And then let's stretch this guy, and we'll move this down. And rotate it up just a bit. And again, we'll sort of match that over to the hand. Maybe even come back in here and cut this back part out. So subtract F and feather this edge out. So now we don't get this little back blast that we had earlier. We'll have that start on frame 1. And maybe we'll even speed this up as well. This time stretch, we'll bring this one to, let's try 70 for now. See how that looks. Playing full speed. Looks pretty good. Actually, probably going to even come in here and stretch it out a bit more, because this bit right here lingers a bit. And then we can actually even come in here, line it up, and then instead of redoing our position keyframes, we can actually just parent this layer to our bottom layer right here. So that sticks. Now, normally you wouldn't want it to stick too much, because ideally these are particles, once they actually leave the hand, they're pretty much gone for good, and they're not going to be affected by the movement of the hand. But generally with subtle movements, this sort of helps it sit also. Let's change the feathering up on this. We do have a hard edge still. So bring that down because our mask is a bit too close. Actually, we can even leave this at 90. Hit MM and expand our mask out a bit just to bring that edge up. What we're going to do is we're going to take this, we're going to duplicate our dust clip. I'll actually move this second copy below, and then we will flip it upside down. Let's make this guy a bit thinner. Also, move him in a bit too. Something like that. Something so it's definitely don't want the perfect mirror. We definitely want to break up some of what we see so it's not too similar. I'll actually offset this by a frame as well. Maybe even 2 frames. Let's actually even come back here, bring this out a bit, because there's that little bit at the end that sort of like lingers. And come to the top, we'll stretch that out just a bit more. So that's what we get, because we have all our stuff feathered on the edges here. It's pretty much can't distinguish it as a mirror right now. Does get maybe a little crowded in there. Maybe just move this one down just a little bit to there, maybe. Alright, now back to what we were doing before. We're going to hit Control Y to make a new solid. We're going to make this one white. We're actually going to name this our dust mat. And we'll turn that off for now, and then we'll go to our rectangle mask. And we'll draw a shape just like this. We can turn this on. We'll hit F for feather. We'll begin to feather this out, and what we can do is we can animate this mask. Can animate it over to sort of like fade out our dust from the back, if that makes any sense. So right now we'll put it about here, and then we'll go to the point in our comp where we want our dust to start fading out. So where does it start to linger a whole lot? So whoosh, it starts to linger a good bit right about here. So I think this is pretty much where we want it to, like, we really want it to start coming in. So we'll hit M, get the mask path, drop a keyframe on that. Let's actually take that mask and we'll move it a bit closer, right about here. And then where do we want this to sort of be gone by? Probably want this whole thing to be gone by right about here. So double click our mask again, and then we'll animate this so it's all the way over here and off the edge of the screen. So this is what we get. Actually, maybe even move that keyframe back just a bit. And let's see what happens when we start matting this stuff. Duplicate our dust mat again. Control D, put it above our other one. Alpha mat that, and I think we already faded out that bottom one. So we'll see how it could, actually this should be alpha inverted, my bad. So use an alpha inverted mask, so that'll keep everything that isn't covered by this mask, and then as that comes in, fades everything out. See what that looks like. And even this bottom bit of dust is pretty. Really sticks, especially towards the back. Even take this mask and just move it up a bit. It's just little adjustments like this. So to help things settle in here, now we will come back and color correct this in just a few minutes. And also, if you really have the time, you can also sort of make this a bit more of an organic mask, not just a straight line, even though it is feathered on there. I'm gonna take this bottom one and bring it up like this some more. That's what we end up with. And as that other mask comes in, sort of takes it out. Now this dust is still a little intense. Again, we'll fix that when we color correct. Now, actually, the other thing we're going to do right now is we're actually going to solo our bottom layer. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually make some displacement here, so our background actually moves a bit along with our dust that we have flying through the air. So we'll make a new layer, a new solid. Just name this the white solid for now. We really should name things, but this is going to go into pre-comp anyways. We'll generate a ramp. Now what we can do is, let's actually set this to something like overlay, so I can sort of see where we're putting our things. And then we'll put black down here, put our white up here. We'll sort of angle it to go with the direction of our smoke, and we'll try to sort of, so this area in between these guys. If I actually switch this back to normal, that's what we're going for. I'm trying to get that to sort of angle and line up with our smoke. And then the last thing we'll do is we'll make one more matte. This will be our, it's actually, keep it vague, we're going to name it matte this time. And we'll bring this above our white solid, and we'll turn off both of these, and we'll actually draw our own little shape around our hand. Just can go, maybe we even do it like something like this maybe. I'll come off here. And come in like this, and then hit back here. Sort of flares out a bit at the end. And so this will be what will eventually contain our displacements. Alright, so now that we have our matte set up, what we're going to do is we're going to take, actually going to duplicate our bottom layer here, and then we're going to take these three layers, we're going to right click, pre-compose, we'll move all elements to a new composition, we'll name this our displacement map, and we will open that comp, double click to open, and what do you know, we're back here. So now we have our ramp, we have our matte, and what we can do, take this bottom layer, we're going to right click and click guide layer, so this will only show up in this comp. When we go back to our original comp, it won't render out again, so we can use this just for reference. We'll take our white solid here, go to our matte, and now that we sort of know where we want it to end up, we can even come into our ramp and just touch that up a bit more just to line up. And there we go. Now, what we can do is we can set this to alpha matte. So we're going to use this matte as our transparency. We can feather this out a good bit too. Maybe it's here, and then what we can actually do is we can take our ramp, actually apply an effect, go to distort, turbulent displacement, turbulent displace, and let's crank the amounts up to maybe 125, and our scale, bring this pretty small, maybe 20, maybe even 12. So that's what we have, and then we can actually take our evolution, alt click that, we'll type in time star maybe 90. See how that looks like. We'll ramp preview that. It's actually pretty slow. Let's try 300. You know what? 800. Well, let's go pretty fast because it is a pretty intense wave of air rushing out here. what? I'm even gonna go 1000. I think we're gonna settle on that. Yeah, so now it sort of gives it a bit of a noise, but the big key to using the ramp here is that when we apply a displacement map, we can have the top bit here. This will move up. This bit will sort of displace downwards. It'll stay sort of neutral in the middle, but also that noise gives it a bit of room to work with. Now we're also going to add in one other element to our displacement. Make a new solid. We'll name this our waves, and we're going to go to Effect, Generate Radio Waves. Now this is going to take a lot of fine tuning to really get to where we want. Put the render quality to 3 just while we're working. And let's take our effect. We'll get our producer point. We'll put it around our hand. We'll actually set a keyframe on that. And we'll sort of have it follow the hand. Just one thing the radio waves can do. They'll sort of match with the hand. In fact, we should probably do the same with our mat for our noise up here. But we'll get to that in just a little bit. And then we'll cut it out here. So let's change up our waves. We're going to make our waves white. And let's bring the let's see, lifespan, seconds. It's a pretty quick thing. So it's 1, 2, what is it? Frame 188 up to pretty much ends at 102. So pretty much at about 15, 16 frames. Put our lifespan, actually pretty short. We'll drop this to maybe 4. And then we'll bring our velocity up a whole lot here. And we'll bring our frequency up a lot too. This is what we're sending out right now. So swoosh. Now I think we're going to want to change. Now I want to get our direction. We're going to flip this so we're sort of following the path of that wave. We're still really going to have to crank this velocity up here. The expansion up. So as it goes on, they get bigger. Bring the direction a bit closer and in line with that cone shape we have going on here. I'll bring the frequency up even more. Try maybe 60. So definitely getting a good number of these every frame. Let's change our end width. We want these to end pretty wide. Maybe start pretty small. Maybe something like that. And we'll actually bring our fade out time to maybe 0.1. Keep that at 0 actually, and then our lifespan. These, so it's sort of, they die out right when they get to the edge of the frame there. So bring this right here and bring our fade out time up just a little bit so they're not too. And a fade in time up to about there so we don't get it right around here. So this is eventually going to become our displacement. We're at 0.2. No. 0.4. Lifespan. 0.4. 0.3. Too much. 0.35. 0.37. That's it. We're settling on that. And just fine-tuning this. So what we sort of want to get is we want to get like sort of the look of the waves. So as if this hand is really pushing out waves of air, because that's what it is after all. Airbending is the goal that we're trying to create. It's down to 1. Maybe we can bring the end width down. 35. Alright, so that looks pretty good. Now what we can do is we can go in here, we can start animating some different properties. For example, we'll get our velocity. We want to start off not our velocity, our frequency. Start it off pretty intense is what we're going to try to do. Then we'll maybe in the middle, we'll maybe bump it down a bit, go to 45 maybe. Hit U on the keyboard to see our keyframes. We have our position keyframes from our emitter position. Then maybe we'll hold on 45 for a bit, and then as we close it out, we'll just drop our frequency down pretty low to maybe 10. This, and then it starts to slow down, and then we cut it out. And then actually we'll just bring it all the way down to 0, so that way we stop producing after this point. So this will help just spice up our displacement. It'll make it look a bit more like we're really pushing forward. Actually, I think about it. We have a frequency set to 45 down here. Our frame rate at 24 seems to match up pretty close to that frequency, which makes them look like they're standing still, even though the ones behind are just being produced and they just end up in the same position on the next frames. Let's actually change the frequency. We'll bring this down even a bit more to 40 and 40. Let's try this. That should get rid of that issue. Yeah, now they seem to move a bit more. And actually we'll also bring the 60 over here, and then we'll bring our frequency down to 0 on the frame before. So then we hit, and then start to get those. Actually, maybe even move this back, 60 back here. So then right when we hit, we start to get these rings. Also go in here, we'll do an effect. We'll blur and sharpen. We'll put a fast blur on this bad boy. Hit repeat edge pixels, and then let's see. Bring it to maybe 20 towards the middle. So it's not too sharp, especially because it is a displacement after all. So we don't want it to be too intense. 24. We'll set a keyframe for right there in the middle of the animation. We want it to start off definitely more blurry. So maybe try 70. So it sort of comes in, and then the detail sort of starts to emerge as that goes on. Hit U. Hit it once. There you go. And maybe shift this over. And we'll bring this down a bit too. Maybe 60. Maybe even 50. And sort of hold on this, maybe even go down to 20 towards the end here, and then those last few frames, we can really bump this up and really blur it out. We can also shift T, will also bring up our opacity, and we can also start to fade out at this point as well. Ooh. Get our opacity. So now to handle the animation for our other matte, we can go in here, we'll make a new mask, and we'll put this around everything. Go to our masks, we'll put this above mask 1. Then on mask 1 we'll change this to subtract and invert. And I'll get this, and then be able to obviously cut this out with this top mask here. So let's hit F for feather, and we'll feather this guy out. We'll see. Put this over and see how soft we want it. Pretty soft. Again, it is a displacement map. So then we'll start over here. And then we'll go into our mask path. We can hit M, mask 2. We'll start this guy off over here, and now as we hit it, so start to see the first bit here. Actually, you know what makes more sense than this is to go to where these radio waves hit the edge, right there. So this is the frame. We want this guy to hit the edge and to reveal our entire displacement. It's right there. And then let's shift this guy to about right here. Hold on to that until we start to fade out, which is pretty quick here. And then where does this fade? And that's sort of where it hits the edge. So what we get for our entire displacement mat is going to be this guy. Whoosh. So there's some noise in there, there's some radio waves, which is sort of like the pushing of that air as that wind goes. And there we are. Now to close out the mat, to make it work well together, what we're going to do is we're going to grab a new layer, a new solid layer, and we'll set the brightness to 50% because we want 50% gray. Hit OK. I'm just going to put this on the bottom because displacement mats will not, or the displacement map effect, I should say, will not displace anything that's gray. So anything that isn't this stuff right here, we don't want to move. We only want to displace this type of stuff in here. And now I think all that's left is going to be to just touch this up. First, we'll actually put this over here into our bending comp. And we'll make a new adjustment layer. So layer, new adjustment layer. Drop this on the bottom, and then we'll go into Effect, Distort, Displacement Map, and we'll read off of our displacement map layer. And we can just use luminance for both these values, and let's set this to maybe 24 and 24. And then of course hide our displacement map comp. So if we only look at our adjustment layer and our bottom layer, we're going to start seeing it move around. Ooh. Look at that. So we can go back and adjust some of our other settings later on. Now I think what we're going to do is we're going to take this guy, put our horizontal displacement. We're going to have to deal with this eventually, aren't we? Okay. Set this to 24. This isn't the hugest deal. Although it does kind of stink when that gets in the way. We can worry about solutions for this later on. Eventually we are just going to actually crop everything out and add camera shake, so we're not going to have to worry about edges that are too close to the edge that is already there. Now what we can do is we're going to go back in here. We're actually going to lock our bending comp window, go back into our displacement map, and we're just going to touch some of this up because I think our waves are a bit intense. Our waves, yeah, waves really get in there. So we'll go to the waves, we'll hit T, and we'll just bring the opacity on these down. Let's make sure we get our keyframe for that so we don't mess anything up. We'll try 70. So I get those waves in there. They aren't too intense. We'll maybe even bring this down a bit more. 50. And then we'll take our white solid. Probably doesn't need too much actually. The white solid should be good. We render. So on its own it doesn't do very much. But actually I think we'll go back into the bending comp. We'll bring our horizontal displacement down 16. Sort of stretches out as this all sort of comes in here. Actually, I think let's try negative 16. I think that might be a bit better for our horizontal displacement. See, it's not a huge deal. It just sort of depends which way this sort of comes. And now it looks like it's a bit more of an outward facing cone, so it sort of comes around like that. So that gets us pretty close there. I think that's pretty good. Then what we can do is we can unsolo this and see this on top of our other stuff. Maybe even come in here. Displacement map, and we'll begin bracket. Let's actually move that forward one frame. So once you get that displacement in there, it looks like there's really a lot of flow going on here, especially when you add that dust in. You can even add Obviously, if you're not a fan of putting the dust like in the actual moving air, you can also do something like having dust off the ground. You can even blow like even like some, if you get like a particle system with like maybe some leaves and like little polygons in there, sort of have those blow around in here. If you've got something that'll deal with turbulence well, maybe even like kick up some rocks or something. If you don't like the idea of like having the actual air that's moving be physically seen and only affecting what's around it. And let's see what happens if we ran preview and then yeah, so right now the waves still seem pretty intense on this comp. So let's drop this down. 35. Maybe even bring down our overall displacement. Just as more of a subtle effect. In fact, maybe even the turbulent displacement is still pretty heavy. Yeah, let's bring the amount down to 100. But that's too much. Yeah, something like that seems to do pretty well. Now I think the last step is just going to be to do a bit of color correction on our dust. So I'll actually hide this bottom one, and we'll go to Effect, Color Correction, Tint. Bring this maybe 50%. So now the dust isn't like super just orange and catches you. Actually even probably tint this to like the ground here. Even that is pretty intense color-wise. Bring that over to there. Even pull a bit more saturation out. Something like that. Take this tint, Control C to copy, and you can take our bottom dust layer, Control V to paste. So you can copy that same bit over. Maybe even go into our rampant design smoke. You can see it. Go to our alpha. Boost the alpha probably. Let's take the opacity on all these dust layers right down to maybe 80, maybe even 70. On this guy, bring this guy back to 70. It's not too intense, but still something there that you can actually, your eye can really grab onto. Alright, let's run and preview it. So that's where we're at for our airbending. On the next episode of Tutorial Tuesdays, we're going to tackle getting this fire over here. Some fireballs and like, I don't know, are there any Avatar experts out there that know what the actual like that, like it's like a flamethrower basically. Yeah, I'm just gonna call it the flamethrower. Just shoot flames out of your hands and just light something on fire. And then in the coming weeks we'll tackle our water and earth as well, which are a bit more complicated. Can't really do those that great just in After Effects. We're gonna get into some 3ds Max work, some 3D CGI work there too. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I hope if even if you are just more interested in learning about the process, maybe you aren't actually interested in learning the effects, maybe you are actually interested in VFX and you're just looking for any way to make some airbending, get it to look nice, then I hope you guys found something interesting in this video at least. And with that, I'll leave you guys. We'll see you next time. New episode of Minty Fresh Friday coming out this Friday. Stay tuned for that. We did miss last week, getting ready for today, and also some other stuff came up last week, but we got a great episode coming this Friday. Stay tuned, stick around. I'll see you next time. My name is Brendan, Digital Mint, signing off. Everything today, jeez. Anyway, hello everyone, my name is Brendan from Digital Mint. You're watching Minty Fresh Fridays. We go over all the latest events here at the Digital Mint Studios. This is actually Dodge right now.